Good morning, and welcome to the first edition of Monday Morning Cup of Coffee. I'm your host, Gavin Hite, representing Up West Sports. This episode is where I recap this past weekend from college baseball in the Pacific Northwest. This last weekend was a solid one. Let's dive in. Good. First, I want to give a shout out to Pacific Northwest College Baseball Report. They have been instrumental in covering college baseball in the Northwest, and honestly, the best way to stay up to date with live scores and highlights. All the highlights I show and scores can be found on their Twitter or X at PNW_CBR. I will throw their other links in the description to make sure that you guys can check out their website. Before moving forward, I did want to make sure to give them full credit for the excellent work they do. In an unbiased opinion, I am truly a fan of their work, and make sure to check them out. They do great stuff. So starting off the weekend, actually there was a really cool event happening out in Florida. There's the East-West Challenge, where they had a handful of East Coast schools in the NAIA and West Coast schools, and pretty much all of them were receiving votes or better. They did have number 1 ranked Tennessee Wesleyan there. They had number 11 ranked Southeastern there. St. Thomas University in Florida, Ave Maria in Florida. Then also you had LC State, UBC, and a couple other schools from the West Coast that have done a phenomenal job. So kicking it off with LC State, they had a 4-banger starting on January 30th, that Thursday. They took on Ave Maria. Sorry, they took on Ave Maria and beat them 13-2. Heck of a game. Then they went to Friday, where they did end up losing to St. Thomas by a score of 12-2, and then heading over to Southeastern. Now, Southeastern always been a powerhouse, and their new coach, Gabe Grinder, has done a phenomenal job. And it was a close game. They ended up losing 3-2. And you know, if LC State's losing, the team on the other side of the diamond's got to be pretty good. So Southeastern did end up winning that game 3-2, and then just on Saturday they played number 1 ranked Tennessee Wesleyan. And this is where they got a little bit of redemption, coming in and beating them by a score of 10-3. Not bad, beating the number one school in all of NAIA by a score of 10-3. Heck of a turnaround. They ended up this weekend 2-2. And moving forward, we have College of Idaho, who took on Park University down here in my neck of the woods in Gilbert, Arizona. They ended up doing a pretty good job this weekend. They won 3 out of 4. The first game on Thursday was an 11 a.m. one here. They ended up losing 10-7, and then came back and they won 10-4 on Friday. They actually had a doubleheader. They won the second game on Friday, 13-8, and then they ended up beating Park again on Saturday by a score of 7-5, and they get ready to take on Central Washington. So we got another Northwest another Northwest banger going on next weekend. So tune into that one for sure. Now that leads us into the next team that we're going to be taking a look at, Northwest Nazarene. All right, so next up we have Montana State Billings, who ended up having a pretty good weekend. They took on Friday Cal State East Bay and beat them by a score of 5-4. And then they didn't play Saturday. I'm assuming there was some sort of pushback on weather, and that moved them to Sunday, and they won 2-0. And then the second game on Sunday, they won 4-3. They're going to go ahead and finish that last game on Monday. And that's going to lead us into another Division II school from the Northwest, St. Martin's University. They ended up taking on Cal State San Marcos for 4. Didn't quite go in their favor. They did play some really good baseball down there, but ultimately ended up with 4 losses over the weekend. They lost 9-1 on Friday. They lost 17-13 in game 1 on Saturday, and then 6-5. Made it a very good game on the second game on Saturday, and then Sunday ended up losing 12-5, and they will get ready to turn right back around this next upcoming week and play Stanislaus State in Turlock. So good luck to them. And also, not to mention, Corbin also played Simpson for a set of 4. They took 3 out of 4. And then OIT, Oregon Tech, ended up playing La Sierra. They got more games coming up, and they ended up beating La Sierra 14-2. All right, and next up, we actually have not an American school, but they're still Northwest, and they are still part of the Cascade Collegiate League, and that is University of British Columbia. And they are a pretty good team to watch this year, especially after seeing these first couple of games. Understandably, their record doesn't really reflect of how good of a baseball team they are. They did take on number 1 ranked Tennessee Wesleyan, and they lost by a score of 9-6. And they actually got things kicked off last week on Wednesday against Tennessee Wesleyan, and then took on number 11 ranked Southeastern and lost by a score of 6-1, which in college baseball, I know that sounds like a huge deficit, but 6-1 in college baseball is actually a respectable score, especially when you're taking on top 25 team. And then Ave Maria, they ended up beating them by a score of 9-3, and they ended up leaving out of that East-West little tournament that they had against receiving votes, St. Thomas University, and they lost by a score of 6-4. So it didn't quite go their way. They went 1-3 on the weekend, but they played some really good baseball, and it showed the rest of the nation that this is a team not to be messed with. I think when they take on College of Idaho and they take on LC State and they get back to their conference play, you're going to see some really good baseball. Especially as we kind of move forward with some of the new teams that have joined the Cascade Collegiate League. Very excited. Very excited to see what they got going on. They're actually still going to stay down there in Florida. They're going to take on Southeastern again for a double between Wednesday and Thursday. They play them for 2 more games. So they'll get a little bit of shot of a redemption there and try and leave Florida on the highest note they possibly can. And then they also have University of St. Francis out of Indiana for 2 more before they finally leave Florida. So good luck to them. And here we actually have an incredible weekend. Central Washington University, 4-0 over the weekend over Stanislaus State. Ended up sweeping them. And honestly, the guy that I want to highlight out of all this is Brandon Potts. I actually had the pleasure of coaching against him, not with him or for him, against him when he was at Federal Way High School once upon a time. That Federal Way High School team was pretty good. I know they got a kid that's now with the San Diego Padres, and then they had another pitcher, Tyler Huff, who ended up going to Wazoo. That team was really good. Brandon Potts has been a couple different spots, and now he's landed at Central Washington. But I had to highlight 5 home runs over the weekend for him against a pretty powerful, Stanislaus State. They had a pretty good. They usually have a pretty good team, so it's nice to see them come out with 4 against a pretty good team. Central Washington, definitely another team to just keep your eye on as we move forward. And the last team to note from this past weekend is Western Oregon. Western Oregon went down to go play Cal State Monterey Bay. Ended up not the best record over the weekend. They won 1, lost 3. And they were all really good baseball games. They lost the first one on Friday, 4-3. They lost the second one on Saturday. It was the first of the double on Saturday, 6-5. They lost the second of the double. They ended up winning the second of the double, 6-3. And then Sunday, they lost by a score of 4-1. And they are going to get ready to go play Fresno Pacific this upcoming weekend. And now it's the part of the show where it's time for College Game Day. This is a fun theory that if there were to be a College Game Day held from the Northwest, where's it going to be? This upcoming week, it's the series between the host Chico State University and Nampa, Idaho's own Northwest Nazarene University. Excited to see those 2 teams square off this next weekend. Also want to give a quick shout out to Warner Pacific University in Portland, Oregon, who is opening up their first weekend with against a D3 program in Lewis and Clark. We need more schools in the Northwest. So I wanted to make sure to give them a special shout out and best of luck to head coach Jeff Bard and the brand new program. For Up West Sports, I'm Gavin Hite. And make sure to tune in every Monday morning for a cup of coffee and some college baseball. Remember, life's too short. Gas up, you boys.